How can the BMA justify putting people through so much worry at a time when hospitals are already under pressure?
Yeah, I mean, it's a terrible thing that we've had to come out on strike once again because the government have failed to give us a credible offer. It's been almost a year and a half since our dispute began, and it's taken several rounds of strike action just to get the government to the table to talk to us. They've recently offered us a 3% offer, which barely touches inflation this year, yet alone touches the 26% pay erosion that our profession's faced. So we feel like we've left with no other choice than to go back out on strike again, and that's why we're here today.
But nobody else is getting a 35% pay increase. Nobody in the private sector, nobody in the public sector. Why are doctors so special when it comes to demanding 35% when your other medical colleagues have settled for less than that?
So no other public sector worker has faced as big a pay erosion as doctors have. So that's why we are fighting for this figure. Our other medical colleagues, our consultants, have not yet agreed on a pay agreement, and they are in a consultation period in which they have actually balloted and voted yes for further strike action. So we'll see the result of that consultation and whether they will continue to strike with us. But their dispute is a matter for them. We have faced a huge amount of pay erosion. And all we're asking for is a fully qualified doctor on £15 an hour to be paid £20 an hour. It's not asking the earth. And we don't believe that a doctor today should be paid or worth 26% less than their 2008 counterpart.
But the £15 an hour figure is the minimum that a doctor can be paid. By the time that you've added on additionals, when you get bonuses, working overtime, weekend, night shift pay, all that sort of stuff, it is far more than just £15 an hour, isn't it?
So doctors don't get bonuses for one, but doctors, we do night shifts, yes we do overtime, but I think we've got to compare like for like. I think working out on an hourly basis is a fair way of going out about it. No other profession works the amount of hours we do so consistently, doing nights, doing weekends. It's not fair to compare it in that regard. And if you look at, say, New Year's Day, Christmas Day, the newly qualified doctors are the lowest paid professional in the whole hospital, and that's including the cleaners, the porters, the nurses, the physician associates who want to over double that. It's just not fair, it's not right, and it's taken this long to get the government to seriously address our concerns, but it's just still not enough to address this huge pay erosion we faced.
So you're saying that doctors who are working on New Year's Day get paid less money than the cleaner does cleaning the hospital?
Yeah, that's correct.
How much do cleaners get paid?
So there's a chart that shows it quite clearly, but there's a bonus that people get when they work on Christmas Day or New Year's Day, and if you factor that all in, the hourly rate of a doctor on an NHS salary is less than the Band 2 staff on an NHS salary.
So, and that would include cleaners, 100%?
That would include domestic staff who do clean.
Just paint a picture of what it's like for your colleagues, because you're calling for this pay increase. What sort of things are they facing? Food banks, is it difficult for them to make ends meet? Explain why it is that you're out here. Sort of paint that picture so people can understand where you're coming from.
We're facing a workforce crisis where 4 in 10 doctors, 40% of our workforce, have got plans to leave the NHS, with 70% thinking about leaving as a whole. That's a huge number, and when we're 10,000 doctors short, this comes to the conclusion that the situation we're in is just not sustainable. So something has to change, and like I said, it's 26% is not an insignificant figure. This is a huge number, and pay is a metric of how you're valued in society. Our government is our employer, and we're just asking to be paid fairly. We're not asking for a pay rise, just to restore our pay to how it was in 2008, so we can retain and recruit more staff.
I myself have been qualified for 5 years. I work as a trainee anaesthetist. I hold labs in my hands, and I'm being paid, I think it's £19 an hour. Now, I accept that doctors, lots of people say that we get paid more than the average person in the UK population, but we do also work a lot of hours. What we do entails a lot of risk. We put our health at risk. We put never mind our social lives and contact with our families. So, and we're not doing it for the money, but we need to have a job where we're able to pay for our children's childcare, where we're able to also just feel like we, are being compensated for what we put out there, what we put out there of ourselves, and the work that we do.
Do you feel valued by the government?
Not particularly, no. I came here 10 years ago to sort of what I felt was the best health service in the world. I wanted to be trained in the NHS because it was widely known then that it's the world's best health service, both for training of doctors but also for patients. The situation is changing rapidly. At the moment, the funding per capita in the UK is nothing compared to its European counterparts. The time you get as a doctor to learn your trade and to truly not just write discharge summaries and run around like in sort of admin monkey, but actually training to becoming a future consultant is less and less.
Would you ever be enticed to either go back to Norway or to go to a different country where the pay was higher?
So before I would have said absolutely not, no way. I love it here, I love living in the UK, I love working in the NHS, and I think ultimately I still get a better training and better experience here as a doctor than anywhere else in the world. We're the most sort of diverse country and it's the most exciting place I can think of to work in medicine. But the fact of the matter is that in Norway doctors get paid at sort of equal levels, roughly the same for about half the hours of work. And my life would be dramatically different if I moved to Norway. And it's something that I'm definitely considering more and more often at the moment. It really is. I don't want to, particularly. I came here for a reason, but at some point, I'm in my 30s now. At what point do I decide that, I can't do all those hours anymore for half the pay?
If Victoria Atkins, the Health Minister, and the Prime Minister Rishi Sunak were watching this right now, what would your message be to them?
It would be to maybe try to not view this as a dispute that's simply about sort of doctors wanting more money. That's not really the crux of the issue here. The crux of the issue here is that our colleagues are leaving and that we might be leaving. And you can't plug the gaps of the thousands of doctors that are missing at the moment with people that don't have the equivalent training. We're useful, skilled professionals, and a measure of how good the NHS is and how good and safe the service is for patients isn't how many more hospitals you build or how many wards you refurbish. It's how many skilled professionals you treat well so that they stay in their jobs. That goes for nurses, it goes for doctors, it goes for physios, it goes for everybody. I've worked in lots of hospitals that are on the brink of falling down, but they still feel like amazing places to work and they still feel like the patients are safe, and that's all down to the people that work there. It's not down to anything else. You've got to look after your staff.